I was giving birth to our daughter when my husband Ethan emptied our joint accounts and transferred every last penny to his girlfriend. I didn't find out until 3 days later when my credit card was declined at the pharmacy while picking up antibiotics for a post-delivery infection. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Your card has been declined," the pharmacist said with an apologetic smile. I shifted uncomfortably, still sore from childbirth, while my newborn daughter Lily slept peacefully in her carrier. "That's impossible. Can you try again?" She did. Same result. I fumbled for my phone, balancing it awkwardly while trying not to disturb Lily. The banking app showed a balance of $0 across all our accounts. No pending transactions, no holds, just nothing. Even our savings account, which had held over $200,000 for our daughter's future, was completely empty. My hands trembled as I called Ethan, straight to voicemail. I texted him, "Emergency, call me now." "Nothing. I'll come back," I told the pharmacist, fighting back tears. The infection was already making me feverish. Without antibiotics, it would only get worse. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities. Had we been hacked? Was Ethan okay? I hadn't heard from him since he'd left the hospital yesterday, claiming he had an urgent work matter. When I arrived home, I found the front door unlocked. My heart raced as I carefully carried Lily inside. "Ethan?" I called out. No answer. I made my way to our bedroom and stopped cold in the doorway. His closet was open and empty. All his clothes, shoes, even the expensive watch collection I'd helped him build over our 5 years of marriage, gone. On our bed lay an envelope with my name, Sophia, written in his handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it, careful not to wake Lily. "Sophia, I'm sorry it had to end this way. I've met someone else. Her name is Vanessa. We've been together for 8 months. She's pregnant. I've decided to start fresh with her. I've transferred our money to secure our future. You're smart. You'll land on your feet. Goodbye. Ethan." I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, the letter falling from my hands. 8 months? Vanessa? Pregnant? My world splintered into 1,000 pieces as I looked at our 3-day-old daughter, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her father had just abandoned us both. Trembling, I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Jasmine. "He's gone," I whispered when she answered. "He took everything." "I'm coming over right now," she said without hesitation. While waiting for Jasmine, I called our bank's fraud department, only to discover that Ethan had legally withdrawn all funds, as a joint account holder. There was nothing they could do. I was 32 years old with a newborn baby, no income, having quit my marketing director position 3 months ago at Ethan's insistence, $0 to my name, and a raging infection that needed medication. And my husband, the man who had held my hand through 18 hours of labor just 3 days ago, had planned his escape while watching me bring his child into the world. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The fever worsened as night fell. Jasmine insisted on taking me to the emergency room while her husband stayed with Lily. "You need those?" "Antibiotics," she said firmly. "We'll figure out the payment later." At the hospital, a kind nurse took one look at my tear-streaked face and obvious postpartum state and rushed me through triage. The doctor prescribed stronger antibiotics than what I'd been unable to purchase earlier. I don't have insurance anymore," I admitted, my voice breaking. "And I can't pay right now." The doctor and nurse exchanged glances. "Let's get you treated first," the doctor said gently. "The hospital has programs for situations like yours." I left with medication and a referral to the hospital's financial assistance department. The relief from having antibiotics was overshadowed by the crushing weight of my new reality. Back at home, while Lily slept in Jasmine's arms, I sat at our dining table trying to make sense of everything. I needed a plan. Without money or a job, how would I pay next month's mortgage? How would I buy diapers and formula? I opened my laptop to check our online banking again, hoping it had all been some terrible mistake. It wasn't, but there was a notification from an email address I didn't recognize. Sophia Abrahams, this is an automated message to inform you that as of May 15, 2025, you have reached the age and life event conditions specified in your grandfather's trust. Please contact Blackwell and Associates at your earliest convenience to discuss your inheritance. I frowned at the screen. My grandfather had died when I was 12. I remembered him fondly. He was warm, funny, and always had candies in his pockets for me when I visited. But he'd been a high school physics teacher. What inheritance could he possibly have left that would be activated now, 20 years after his death? I showed the email to Jasmine. This seems suspicious, she said, but Blackwell and Associates is a legitimate firm. I've heard of them. They handle ultra-high net worth clients. Call them in the morning, but don't get your hopes up. I barely slept that night, alternating between feeding Lily, taking my medication, and staring at that email. By morning, I was exhausted but determined to leave no stone unturned. At exactly 9 a.m., I called the number in the email. Blackwell and Associates, how may I direct your call? A polished voice answered. My name is Sophia Abrahams. I received an email about my grandfather's trust. One moment, Ms. Abrahams. After a brief hold, a man's voice came on the line. Ms. Abrahams, this is Jonathan Blackwell. We've been expecting your call. First, let me verify your identity. What was your mother's maiden name and your date of birth? After answering his security questions, he continued. Ms. Abrahams, I'm pleased to inform you that according to the terms of your grandfather Alexander Reed's trust, you have now inherited the full balance of his estate. The trust was specifically designed to activate upon either your 35th birthday or the birth of your first child, whichever came first. I gripped the phone tighter. I don't understand. My grandfather was a teacher. There was a pause. Ms. Abrahams, your grandfather was indeed a physics teacher. But before that, he was also the anonymous inventor of the Reed semiconductor process, which he sold to multiple technology companies in the 1980s under strict confidentiality agreements. My mouth went dry. What exactly are we talking about here, Mr. Blackwell? The current value of the trust, after 4 decades of careful management and investment, stands at approximately $612 million. I nearly dropped the phone. 6 million? 612 million, he corrected gently. Your grandfather was quite talented at both physics and foresight, Ms. Abrahams. The room began to spin. $600 million? My grandfather had been a secret millionaire, and now, at the exact moment when I had nothing, when my husband had cleaned me out and left me with a newborn. Ms. Abrahams? Are you still there? Yes, I whispered. I'm here. I understand this is overwhelming news. Would you like to schedule a meeting to discuss next steps? We can come to you, given your recent childbirth. Yes, please, today if possible. We arranged for him to visit that afternoon. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence for several minutes before bursting into hysterical laughter that soon turned to tears. Jasmine rushed in from the other room. What happened? Are you okay? I looked up at her, my vision blurred. My grandfather left me $600 million. Her mouth fell open. What? The trust fund activated when Lily was born 3 days ago. The same day Ethan emptied our accounts. I shook my head in disbelief. If he had waited just one more day? The irony was staggering. Ethan had spent months planning his escape, calculating exactly how much he could take, timing it perfectly with the birth of our child, only to miss out on a fortune that would have made our joint accounts look like pocket change. What are you going to do? Jasmine asked, sitting beside me. I looked down at my sleeping daughter, then back at the laptop showing the empty bank accounts. First, I'm going to make sure Lily and I are taken care of, I said, newfound resolve, strengthening my voice. And then I'm going to find my husband, not to reconcile, not to share my windfall, but to make sure he understood exactly what his betrayal had cost him. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Mr. Blackwell arrived precisely at 2 p.m., dressed in an impeccable suit and carrying a leather portfolio. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled at Lily. "Congratulations on your daughter," he said warmly. "Thank you," I replied, gesturing for him to sit at the dining table where I'd cleared away the mess of hospital paperwork and unpaid bills. For the next hour, he explained the details of my inheritance. My grandfather had sold his semiconductor process for what was then several $1,000,000, but had insisted on equity stakes in the companies, rather than just cash. Those stakes had grown exponentially over 4 decades. Your grandfather was adamant about several conditions, Mr. Blackwell explained. The trust was to remain secret until it activated. He wanted you to grow up normally, without the weight of extreme wealth distorting your development. I thought about my childhood in a middle-class neighborhood, attending public schools, working summer jobs to save for college. My mother had never mentioned any of this. Did my mother know? She knew there was a trust, but not the amount. Alexander was quite private about his wealth. After selling his process, he returned to his true passion, teaching, and lived modestly until his death. As Mr. Blackwell continued explaining the structure of the trust and the immediate steps we needed to take, I found my thoughts drifting to Ethan. Had he ever shown signs of the betrayal to come? There had been late nights at the office, unexplained, weekend trips, a growing distance between us during my pregnancy. I'd attributed it all to work stress and anxiety about becoming a father. How blind I'd been. "Ms. Abrahams?" Mr. Blackwell's voice pulled me back. "Would you like me to repeat that?" "I'm sorry," I said, readjusting Lily in my arms. "It's been an overwhelming few days." His expression softened. "Of course, I was saying that we've already transferred $5 million to a new account we've established for you for immediate needs. The rest will follow once we complete the paperwork. $5 million. Available now." The contrast with my declined card at the pharmacy just yesterday was dizzying. "There's one more thing," Mr. Blackwell said, pulling out a sealed envelope from his portfolio. "Your grandfather left this for you, to be delivered when the trust activated." My hands trembled as I took it. The envelope was yellowed with age, my name written in faded ink. Inside was a single-page letter. "My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, I'm long gone, and you've either welcomed your first child or turned 35. Either way, you've reached a significant milestone in life. The money that comes with this letter might seem like a blessing or a burden, depending on the circumstances in which you receive it. Use it wisely. Remember that true wealth isn't measured in dollars but in love, purpose, and the difference you make in others' lives. I chose teaching over luxury because it gave my life meaning. Find what gives yours meaning, too. I've watched you grow into a curious, kind-hearted girl, and I know the woman you'll become will be remarkable. This fortune is not my legacy. You are. All my love." Grandpa Alex's tears streamed down my face as I finished reading. I remembered sitting on his lap as he explained constellations, how he'd encouraged my interest in art even when my parents pushed me toward more practical subjects. He'd seen something in me that I'd forgotten somewhere along the way. After, Mr. Blackwell left, promising to return tomorrow with more documents. I sat in the quiet house, nursing Lily and contemplating my next steps. I needed a new place, somewhere secure where Ethan couldn't find us. I needed a lawyer, both for the trust, and for the divorce that would follow. And I needed to understand exactly what had happened in my marriage. Jasmine returned that evening with takeout food and a determined expression. "I did some digging," she said, setting down bags of Thai food. "Found this Vanessa woman on social media. She works, or worked, at Ethan's company. Junior accountant." I felt sick. That's how he met her. Probably. Her profile is mostly private, but she posted a picture 2 weeks ago at some beach resort. The caption says, "Baby moon with my love." The comments are filled with people congratulating them. The betrayal cut deeper. While I was 8 months pregnant, uncomfortable and preparing our home for our child, Ethan had been on a romantic vacation with his girlfriend, celebrating their baby. "How far along is she?" I asked, not sure why it mattered. Based on the photos, I'd guess about 5 months. I did the math. He'd gotten her pregnant while I was already carrying our child. The timeline made everything worse. "I need to find him," I said quietly. Jasmine looked concerned. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "Let the lawyers handle it. I'm not looking for reconciliation, Jazz. I need answers. And I need him to know exactly what his betrayal cost him." She sighed. "If you're determined, I think I know how to find him. But eat something first. You're still recovering." As we ate dinner, I formulated a plan. I would secure Lily and myself first. New home, new security, new legal protections. Then, when everything was in place, I would confront Ethan. Not with anger or revenge, though both tempted me, but with the simple truth. In his careful planning to take everything from me, he had lost the only thing that would have ever truly mattered to him, $600 million, and the security it would have brought to his new family. After dinner, I called a real estate agent recommended by Mr. Blackwell and arranged to view secured properties the next day. I contacted a top divorce attorney in the city, and finally, I looked at the business card Mr. Blackwell had left, the number for the firm's private investigation team. I sent a text to Jasmine, who had gone home for the night. "I'm ready to find him." She replied almost immediately, "I'm with you, whatever you need." That night, as I lay in bed with Lily sleeping beside me, I felt something I hadn't expected. Gratitude. Not for Ethan's betrayal or the pain of the past few days, but for my grandfather's incredible gift. Not just the money, but the timing of it. And for the clarity that comes when you see someone's true character revealed in a moment of crisis. My husband had chosen his path, believing he was leaving me with nothing. Little did he know, he was the one who would end up with nothing that mattered, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke to my phone buzzing with notifications. News about my inheritance had somehow leaked. Several financial publications had run stories with headlines like, "Tech Pioneer's Granddaughter Inherits Fortune," and "Mystery Heiress Identified, Sophia Abrahams to Receive $600 Matters." I groaned, shutting off my phone. The last thing I needed was media attention while trying to track down my husband and secure my daughter's future. Mr. Blackwell called within minutes, his typically composed voice tinged with concern. "Ms. Abrahams, I must apologize. It appears someone at our firm leaked information about your inheritance. We're conducting an internal investigation, but in the meantime, I strongly recommend increased security measures." "Security measures?" I echoed, glancing at Lily sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Unfortunately, sudden wealth can attract unwanted attention. I've taken the liberty of arranging a security team. They'll be at your home within the hour if that's acceptable. An hour later, 2 professionally dressed individuals, a man and a woman, arrived at my door, introducing themselves as Marcus and Diana from Sentinel Security Services. "We recommend relocating you immediately to a secure temporary residence," Marcus explained. "Your current address is now public knowledge." I looked around at the home Ethan and I had purchased 3 years ago, the nursery I'd painstakingly decorated, the kitchen where we'd hosted dinner parties and holiday gatherings, with friends who'd had no idea of his double life. "How quickly can we move?" I asked. "We have a property ready now," Diana replied. "It's a penthouse apartment with controlled access, 24-hour security, and a private elevator. We can have you settled by this afternoon." As they spoke, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello? Sophia?" The voice was female, unfamiliar, and slightly hesitant. "This is Vanessa Davis." My blood turned to ice. "Ethan's girlfriend, the woman he'd left us for." "How did you get this number?" I managed to ask, motioning to Marcus and Diana to give me privacy. "That doesn't matter," she said quickly. "I need to talk to you about Ethan. I have nothing to say to either of you. Please, just listen." Her voice cracked. "Ethan's gone. He took the money, all of it, and disappeared 2 days ago. He's not answering his phone. I'm 5 months pregnant, and he's left me with nothing." The irony wasn't lost on me. "So he betrayed you too." "He told me you knew about us," she continued, her voice small. "He said you'd agreed to divorce amicably, that you had your own money from your family. He said the money he transferred was his portion of your assets." I laughed bitterly. "And you believed that?" "We've been married for 5 years. I gave birth to his daughter 3 days before he emptied our accounts. He left me with a newborn baby and $0 to my name." Silence hung between us. "I didn't know," she finally whispered. "About the baby, about any of it, I swear." Part of me wanted to hang up, to let her suffer the consequences of involving herself with a married man. But something in her voice, desperation, fear, resonated with me. 3 days ago, I'd been in the same position. "Where are you now?" I asked. "At the apartment he rented for me. But I can't make next month's rent. I've been on maternity leave from work and—" "Text me the address," I interrupted. "I'll send someone to pick you up." After ending the call, I turned to find Marcus and Diana watching me with carefully neutral expressions. "Change of plans," I said. "We need to make a stop before going to the penthouse." An hour later, I sat across from Vanessa in the back of an SUV with tinted windows. She was pretty in a delicate way, with auburn hair and green eyes currently reddened from crying. Her rounded belly was visible beneath a loose sweater. She stared at Lily, asleep in her car seat between us. "She's beautiful," she said softly. She said, "Thank you," I replied stiffly. "Now tell me everything. When did you meet Ethan? What did he tell you about me? And most importantly, where do you think he might have gone?" Over the next 30 minutes, Vanessa painted a picture of calculated deception that made me sick to my stomach. Ethan had told her I was a cold, career-obsessed wife who had no interest in children. He claimed we'd been separated for over a year while maintaining appearances for his family's sake. He'd promised to leave me after finalizing financial arrangements, to protect himself from what he called my greedy family. "I was such a fool," she said, wiping away tears. "I never verified anything he told me. And now we're both single mothers abandoned by the same man," I finished for her. The SUV pulled up to the secure penthouse building. As the security team unloaded our minimal belongings, I made a decision that surprised even me. "You can stay here. Tonight," I told Vanessa. "There are 3 bedrooms in this penthouse. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps." She looked at me with disbelief. "Why would you help me? After what I've done?" "You didn't break my marriage vows." "Ethan did." I adjusted, Lily in my arms. "Besides, your child and mine are half-siblings. They're innocent in all this." That night, after settling Lily and showing Vanessa to her room, I met with Jonathan Blackwell and my newly hired divorce attorney, Miranda Chen, in the penthouse's living room. "We've frozen all accounts we could identify in Ethan's name," Miranda informed me. but we believe he's operating under aliases. The private investigators are tracking several leads. How much did he take? I asked. Approximately $487,000 from your joint accounts, she replied, checking her notes. Plus the proceeds from selling his car and emptying his retirement account. Less than $500,000. What had seemed like everything 3 days ago now felt almost trivial compared to my inheritance. And his girlfriend? Miranda asked, glancing toward the hallway where Vanessa was sleeping. She's another victim, I said firmly, and she might be useful in tracking him down. Speaking of tracking, Jonathan interjected, our team has identified unusual activity on Ethan's credit cards in Singapore yesterday. Singapore? I repeated, surprised. That's halfway around the world. It's also a financial hub with strict banking secrecy laws, Miranda noted. If he's trying to hide money, it's a logical choice. I considered this information. Can we send someone there? I want to know exactly what he's doing. Already arranged, Jonathan assured me. Our Singapore office has investigators on standby. After they left, I sat alone in the darkened living room, watching the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. 3 days ago, I'd been in labor, believing I was bringing our daughter into a complete family. Now I was an heiress, single mother, and hunting down my fugitive husband across continents. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. How are you holding up? I typed back, living with Ethan's pregnant girlfriend in a penthouse while tracking him through Singapore. So, not what I expected from my first week of motherhood. She replied immediately, What? Coming over now. 20 minutes later, Jasmine arrived, having been cleared by security. She stared at me in disbelief as I explained the situation. Let me get this straight, she said, keeping her voice low. You're housing the woman your husband cheated with? It's complicated, I admitted. But she's carrying my daughter's half-sibling, and she might know things about Ethan that could help us find him. Jasmine shook her head. You're either a saint or completely insane. Probably a bit of both right now. I laughed softly. Sleep deprivation from a newborn plus emotional trauma will do that. The next morning, I woke to Lily's hungry cries and the smell of coffee. I found Vanessa in the kitchen, awkwardly attempting to prepare breakfast. I hope you don't mind, she said nervously. I wanted to make myself useful. I nodded, settling into a chair to feed Lily. We need to talk about what happens next. Vanessa sat across from me, her hands protectively covering her belly. I can find somewhere else to stay. I don't expect you to. I'm not kicking you out, I interrupted, but I need your help finding Ethan. She looked relieved but confused. Why do you want to find him? For the divorce? That, and because he needs to face the consequences of his actions. I hesitated, then decided to be completely honest. There's something you should know. The day after Lily was born, the same day Ethan cleaned out our accounts, I received news that I've inherited a substantial trust fund from my grandfather. How substantial? She asked cautiously. $600 million. Vanessa's coffee. Cup clattered against the table, spilling its contents. 600 million. If Ethan had waited just one more day before betraying me, he would have had access to more money than he could have imagined. I couldn't keep the bitter satisfaction from my voice. Instead, he'll get nothing. He doesn't know, she whispered. No. And I want to be the one to tell him. A slow smile spread across Vanessa's face, the first I'd seen from her. I want to be there when you do. Over the next week, Vanessa and I developed an unexpected alliance. She provided access to emails and accounts Ethan had shared with her, revealing a network of detailed planning that stretched back nearly a year. Meanwhile, I worked with my legal team to secure my inheritance and file for divorce under circumstances that would leave Ethan with absolutely nothing. The private investigators confirmed that Ethan had indeed been in Singapore, but had moved on to Bali 3 days ago. They'd tracked him to a luxury resort where he was registered under a slightly altered version of his name. He always talked about retiring early to Bali, Vanessa mentioned when I shared this information. Said it was paradise on earth where money goes further. I nodded, a plan forming in my mind. How's your passport situation? She looked surprised. It's valid. Why? Because we're going to Bali, I said decisively. All 3 of us, you, me, and Lily. Miranda strongly advised against this plan during our next meeting. Let the investigators handle it, she urged. Confronting him yourself could complicate the legal proceedings. I'm not going to confront him legally, I explained. I just want him to know what he lost. I want to see his face when he realizes the magnitude of his mistake, she sighed, knowing I wouldn't be dissuaded. Then at least take proper security and have your legal team on standby. 2 days later, we were on a private jet to Bali, a luxury that still felt surreal. Lily slept peacefully in a custom bassinet, while Vanessa and I reviewed what we knew about Ethan's whereabouts. Are you nervous? She asked as we began our descent. Strangely, no, I replied. 3 days ago, I was broken by what he did. Now I just feel clear, like I can finally see who he really is. She nodded. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs, how I believed all his lies. He's very good at what he does, I said. But this time, he miscalculated badly. Our team had reserved a private villa near Ethan's resort. After settling in and resting from the journey, I received word from our investigators. Ethan was currently at the resort's beachfront bar, apparently celebrating something with expensive champagne. Are you ready? I asked Vanessa. She rubbed her belly nervously. As ready as I'll ever be. We left Lily with the trusted nanny we'd brought along and made our way to the resort. Security personnel posing as tourists positioned themselves nearby as Vanessa and I approached the bar. And there he was, my husband of 5 years, the father of my week-old daughter, lounging in swimming trunks with a champagne flute in hand. He was tanned, relaxed, and laughing, looking like a man without a care in the world. He didn't notice us until we were standing directly in front of him. When he looked up and saw us together, the color drained from his face so rapidly I thought he might faint. Surprise, I said calmly. Mind if we join you? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Ethan's mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to speak. How did you find you? I finished for him. It wasn't difficult. For someone planning a disappearing act, you left quite a trail. His eyes darted between Vanessa and me, confusion and panic evident. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Vanessa crossed her arms over her pregnant belly. Because it looks like you emptied Sophia's accounts 3 days after she gave birth to your daughter, then disappeared with my rent money while I'm 5 months pregnant. The resort patrons nearby had gone quiet, openly watching the drama unfold. Ethan lowered his voice to a harsh whisper. Let's talk somewhere private. I'm quite comfortable here, I replied, signaling to a waiter. I'll have whatever champagne he's celebrating with. Sophia, please, Ethan hissed, clearly mortified as more people turned to watch. What exactly are you celebrating, Ethan? I asked loudly enough for others to hear. Abandoning 2 pregnant women? Stealing nearly $500,000? He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. Stop making a scene. Instantly, one of our security team members appeared beside us. Sir, I suggest you remove your hand. Ethan released me, his expression darkening. Who the hell is this? Who the hell is this? Who the hell? My security team, I said pleasantly as the waiter delivered my champagne. A necessary precaution when you're worth $600 million. Ethan froze. What did you say? I took a deliberate sip of champagne, savoring the moment. Oh. Didn't you hear? 3 days after you emptied our accounts, my grandfather's trust fund activated. $600 million, Ethan. That's what you walked away from. The glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the deck. Around us, people were openly staring now, some recording discreetly with their phones. You're lying, he whispered, but doubt had already crept into his voice. The trust activated upon the birth of my first child, I continued calmly. If you'd waited just one more day before stealing our money, you would have had access to more wealth than you could imagine. Instead, I gestured to his now empty champagne glass. You're here, celebrating your theft of our modest savings. Vanessa stepped forward. Is it true? Did you leave right when she had your baby? Ethan's face contorted with rage. This is a setup. You two are working together to what? I interrupted. To track you across the world? To confront you with the consequences of your actions? Yes, we are. His eyes narrowed as he shifted strategies. Sophia, honey, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I was always planning to come back. I just needed some time to save it, Vanessa snapped. You told me she knew about us, that your marriage was over. You told me the money was rightfully yours. I stood up, suddenly tired of the game. We're not here for reconciliation or explanations, Ethan. We're here to deliver 2 messages. First, divorce papers are being served to you as we speak. Check your room. You'll find them waiting. And second, I leaned closer, lowering my voice, so only he could hear. You made the worst financial decision of your life when you chose to betray me. The color had completely drained from his face. Sophia, please. We can work this out. For Lily's sake. The mention of our daughter's name in his mouth sent a surge of anger through me. Don't you dare speak her name. You abandoned her before she was 3 days old. I straightened up, regaining my composure. Goodbye, Ethan. Enjoy your paradise, while it lasts. As Vanessa and I turned to leave, he called after us, desperation evident in his voice. What about my baby? Vanessa is carrying my child. Vanessa turned back, her hand protectively over her belly. Your child will be well cared for. No thanks to you. We walked away, leaving him standing among the shattered glass and spilled champagne, watched by dozens of curious resort guests. As we reached the exit, I heard raised voices. The resort security had arrived, presumably responding to the disturbance. In the car back to our villa, neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, Vanessa broke the silence. That was... She searched for the right word. Satisfying. I laughed, a genuine laugh that felt like releasing a weight I'd carried since finding his letter. It was, wasn't it? Did you see his face when you told him about the money? She asked, a touch of glee in her voice. I thought he was going to pass out. He deserved worse, I said, sobering slightly. But watching his world collapse around him will have to do. Back at the villa, I checked on Lily, who was sleeping peacefully, blissfully unaware of the drama surrounding her first international trip. As I gazed at her perfect little face, I felt a strange sense of gratitude toward Ethan. If he hadn't revealed his true character now, I might have spent years, decades, with a man capable of such calculated betrayal. That evening, as Vanessa and I sat on the villa's terrace watching the sunset over the ocean, my phone buzzed with a message from Miranda. Ethan attempted to access your new accounts. Blocked. Also tried calling Blackwell and Associates. They referred him to me. He's spiraling. I showed the message to Vanessa. What do we do now? She asked. We go home, I replied. We rebuild our lives. We raise our children to be nothing like their father. She looked uncertain. And what about us? This arrangement? It was a fair question. Our alliance had been born of necessity and mutual betrayal. But over the past week, I'd come to respect Vanessa's resilience. She had been deceived just as thoroughly as I had been. "I have more houses than I know what to do with," I said. "And our children are siblings. If you want to stay connected, there's a place for you." Tears filled her eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me? I slept with your husband." "You were lied to, just like I was," I replied simply. "And right now, kindness seems like the best revenge against Ethan's cruelty." The next morning, as we prepared to leave Bali, I received another update. Ethan had been detained at the airport trying to leave the country. Authorities had been alerted about the funds he'd taken, and now he faced potential charges in both the United States and Indonesia. On the flight home, with Lily sleeping soundly beside me, I reflected on the extraordinary week I'd experienced. I'd given birth, been betrayed and abandoned, discovered I was worth hundreds of millions, and confronted my husband across the world. But the most unexpected development was the strange friendship forming between me and the woman who, under different circumstances, I might have considered my enemy. "What will you name your baby?" I asked Vanessa, breaking the comfortable silence between us. She smiled, looking down at her belly. "I was thinking Alexander for a boy. After hearing about your grandfather, he sounds like someone worth honoring." I felt tears prick my eyes. He would have liked that. As our plane soared over the Pacific, I thought about my grandfather's letter and his words about true wealth being measured in love, purpose, and the difference you make in others' lives. I hadn't fully understood what he meant until now. Ethan had sought wealth through deception and betrayal, only to lose everything. I had found it through unexpected circumstances, painful truth, and the strange new family forming around me, and as we headed home to begin our new lives, I couldn't help but think that Grandpa Alex would have approved. 1 year later, I stood in the gleaming kitchen of my new home, watching Lily take wobbly steps toward her half-brother, Alexander. At 15 months old, my daughter was fearless, determined to keep up with the 6-month-old who had just learned to sit up unassisted. "Careful, sweetie," Vanessa called from where she was preparing Alexander's bottle. "He's still little." I smiled, still sometimes amazed at how our lives had transformed. After returning from Bali, Vanessa and I had made a decision that shocked everyone around us. We purchased neighboring properties in an exclusive gated community, connected by a shared garden where our children could grow up together. The tabloids had had a field day, of course. "Betrayed Iris forms family with husband's mistress" was one of the more sensational headlines. But what the outside world couldn't understand was the unique bond forged through shared trauma and healing. My phone buzzed with a notification. "Court proceeding beginning in 30 minutes, the reminder read. "It's time," I told Vanessa, who nodded, solemnly. Today was the final sentencing in Ethan's criminal case. After being extradited from Indonesia, he had faced multiple charges: grand theft, fraud, embezzlement from his company, and even money laundering. The evidence was overwhelming, much of it meticulously documented by Vanessa, who had discovered records of his financial dealings on a laptop he'd left behind. "Are you sure you want to attend?" Vanessa asked, handing Alexander to our shared nanny, Maria. "I need to see it finished," I replied, kissing Lily's forehead before joining Vanessa at the door. For all of us. The courthouse was crowded with media when we arrived. Our story had captured public attention. The betrayed wives who became unlikely allies, the hidden fortune revealed at the perfect moment, and the spectacular downfall of the man who thought he'd outsmarted everyone. We slipped in through a private entrance arranged by my security team, taking seats in the back of the courtroom. Ethan was already there, sitting beside his public defender. His designer clothes had been replaced by a standard suit that hung loosely on his frame. He'd lost weight during his pretrial detention, and his once confident posture was now slumped, in defeat. He didn't notice us until the bailiff announced the judge's arrival, causing everyone to stand. As he turned to rise, his eyes met mine across the courtroom. For a moment, I glimpsed the man I'd once loved, now hollow, desperate, and finally facing the consequences of his actions. The sentencing was straightforward. The judge spoke about breach of trust, calculated deception, and the particular cruelty of abandoning a newborn and a pregnant woman simultaneously. When she announced the sentence, 8 years in federal prison, I felt no joy, only a quiet sense of closure. As Ethan was led away, he looked back once more. I held his gaze steadily, neither smiling nor frowning, simply acknowledging the end of a chapter in all our lives. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions as we hurried to our waiting car. "Sophia, how does it feel to see your ex-husband sentenced? Vanessa, will your children know their father? Are you two really living together now?" We ignored them all, sliding into the back seat as our driver pulled away from the curb. "That's really it," Vanessa said quietly. "It's over." I nodded, watching the courthouse recede in the rear window. Not quite. There's still one more thing we need to do. Later that afternoon, we sat in the office of Jonathan Blackwell, who had become not just my financial advisor, but a trusted friend and mentor over the past year. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" he asked, looking at the documents spread before us. "Completely," I replied. Beside me, Vanessa nodded her agreement. "It's what's best for the children." The papers before us formalized what we'd already created in practice, a trust for both Lily and Alexander that would secure their futures equally. My grandfather's fortune would be shared between the half-siblings, with careful provisions for their education, well-being, and eventual inheritance. "It's unusual," Jonathan noted, though not for the first time. "But then again, your entire situation is unusual," I smiled. My grandfather wrote that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in love, purpose, and the difference you make in others' lives. This honors his wishes. As we signed the final documents, I reflected on the extraordinary year behind us. Beyond the personal drama, I had channeled significant portions of my inheritance into creating the Reed Foundation, named after my grandfather. We focused on supporting single parents, particularly those who had been financially abandoned by partners, a crisis far more common than I'd realized before experiencing it myself. Vanessa had discovered an unexpected talent for identifying worthy projects and had become the foundation's director of operations. Her background in accounting, combined with her personal experience, made her uniquely qualified to understand both the financial and emotional aspects of our mission. After leaving Jonathan's office, we stopped for coffee at our favorite cafe, one of the few places where we could enjoy relative anonymity. "Do you ever regret it?" Vanessa asked suddenly. "Not the divorce or the foundation, but taking me in, creating this unconventional family." I considered the question seriously. In the beginning, I wondered if I was making decisions from shock or trauma. But now, I shook my head. Our children have each other. They'll grow up knowing they're loved and supported, regardless of how they came into this world or what their father did. "I still don't understand how you moved past your anger at me," she admitted. "I wouldn't have blamed you for hating me forever." I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. "When I saw you in that apartment, terrified and abandoned just like me, I realized we were both victims of the same man's manipulation. Hating you would have been letting him win, somehow." She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. Not many people could rebuild their life the way you have." "We rebuilt," I corrected her. "Neither of us could have done this alone." As we drove home to our children, I thought about the journey from that horrible day at the pharmacy when my card was declined. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely. I still had moments of anger when remembering how Ethan had watched me labor with Lily while planning his escape. But those moments grew less frequent and less intense with time. That evening, as I bathed Lily before bedtime, my phone rang with a blocked number. Curious, I put it on speaker. Hello? Mrs. Abrahams? An unfamiliar male voice, formal and hesitant. Ms. Abrahams now, but yes. Who is this? This is Officer Collins from the Federal Correctional Institution. I'm calling regarding Ethan Williams. He's requested to speak with you. My hand froze in the midst of shampooing Lily's fine hair. What? He's entitled to phone privileges and has placed you on his call list. You're under no obligation to accept, of course. Lily splashed happily, oblivious to my sudden tension. What does he want? He didn't specify, ma'am. Would you like to speak with him? I considered refusing outright, but something made me hesitate. Not today, but tell him he can write to me. Through my lawyer. After hanging up, I finished Lily's bath, my mind churning with questions. What could Ethan possibly want after all this time? Forgiveness? Money for his commissary account? Access to the children he'd abandoned? I put Lily to bed with her favorite story, then found Vanessa in the living room, Alexander sleeping peacefully in her arms. Ethan tried to call me from prison, I told her. Her expression tightened. Are you going to talk to him? No. But I said, he could write. I sat beside her on the couch. Do you think that was a mistake? You think that was a mistake? She considered this, gently rocking Alexander. I don't know. Part of me never wants to hear his voice again. But another part? Sometimes I wonder if our children will have questions someday. Questions only he can answer. It was a concern we'd discussed before. How much would we tell Lily and Alexander about their father? When would they be old enough to understand? Would they resent us for keeping them from him, or thank us for protecting them? Maybe it's better to know what he wants. Now, Vanessa continued, rather than having him appear when they're older. I nodded, seeing the wisdom in her perspective. I'll read his letter if he sends one. That doesn't mean I'll respond. 2 weeks later, Miranda delivered a thin envelope during her monthly visit to update us on lingering legal matters. Ethan's handwriting on the outside brought back a flood of memories, shopping lists on the refrigerator, birthday cards, the note he'd left when he disappeared. I didn't open it immediately. Instead, I carried it with me for days, sometimes taking it out and staring at it, trying to imagine what words it might contain. Finally, on a quiet Sunday morning while both children napped, I sat in my home office and carefully opened the envelope. Sophia. I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing I can say will undo what I did to you and Lily. When I saw you in that courtroom, something broke in me. Not because of the sentence. I deserve that and worse. But because I finally saw clearly what I threw away. Not the money. I know that's what everyone thinks I regret most. But seeing you there, strong and composed after everything I did, I realized I lost something far more valuable than any inheritance. I lost you. I lost our daughter. I lost the life we built. And the man I could have been. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know better than that. I'm not even asking for a response to this letter. All I ask is that someday, when Lily is old enough, you tell her that her father made terrible mistakes that had nothing to do with her. That before I knew her, I was a selfish, broken person who didn't deserve either of you. And if you ever feel it's appropriate, I would give anything to see a photograph of her, just to know what she looks like. I will respect whatever boundaries you set. This is the only letter I'll send unless you indicate you're open to more communication. With deepest regret, Ethan. I read the letter twice, searching for manipulation or hidden agendas, but it seemed genuinely remorseful. Too little, too late but sincere nonetheless. Later that day, I showed it to Vanessa. Do you believe him? She asked after reading it. I think I do, I replied. Not that it changes anything? She handed the letter back to me. What will you do? I considered the question, looking out the window to where Lily was now awake, playing in the garden with Maria. I'll send him a photo, one photo, and I'll tell him that when Lily's older, if she wants to know about him, I'll tell her the truth. All of it, good and bad. And Alexander? That's your decision, I said gently. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. She watched her son, who was napping in his portable bassinet nearby. I think the same. One photo, and the truth when he's old enough to ask. That evening, I selected a recent picture of Lily in the garden, her face bright with laughter as she discovered a butterfly. Nothing that showed our home or any identifying details, just my daughter, happy and thriving. I sent it to Miranda with instructions to forward it to Ethan, along with a brief note. She will know the truth when she's old enough to understand it. This is the only photo you will receive for now. 2 years passed. Our arrangement, unusual as it was, settled into a comfortable routine. The Reed Foundation flourished, funding programs that had already helped thousands of single parents regain financial stability. Lily and Alexander grew from babies to active toddlers who were inseparable, more like twins than half-siblings. We received occasional updates about Ethan through the prison system or Miranda's legal channels. He had become a model prisoner, teaching financial literacy classes to fellow inmates and participating in restorative justice programs. He never asked for money or special treatment, and he respected my boundaries about communication. Sometimes, on quiet evenings when the children were asleep, Vanessa and I would sit in our shared garden and marvel at the strange path that had brought us together. If you could go back, she asked one such night, would you change anything? Would you want to know sooner about Ethan's betrayal? I considered the question, watching the stars emerge in the twilight sky. I used to think I would, but now? No. Everything happened exactly when it needed to. Even the painful parts? She pressed. Especially those, I replied. My grandfather wrote that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. For a long time, I didn't fully understand what he meant. But now I do. I look toward our homes where our children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge they were loved unconditionally. I thought about the foundation that was changing lives, born from my own darkest moment. I thought about the unlikely friendship that had grown between Vanessa and me, women who should have been enemies by conventional standards. True wealth, I continued, is having the courage to rebuild after devastation. It's creating family from the ashes of betrayal. It's using your own healing to help others heal too. Vanessa smiled, understanding in her eyes. It's finding strength you never knew you had. Exactly, I agreed. And by that measure, we're the richest women in the world. As we sat in comfortable silence, I thought about how life's most painful moments sometimes become doorways to unexpected blessings. Ethan's betrayal had been cruel and calculated, designed to leave me with nothing. Instead, it had given me everything that truly mattered. My grandfather's fortune had come at the perfect moment, not just financially, but as a reminder of his wisdom and foresight. As though he had somehow known I would need not just his money, but his guidance when my world collapsed. 3 years after that fateful day when my credit card was declined at the pharmacy, I received another letter from prison. This one was different, official. Notification that Ethan was up for early release for good behavior. Are you worried? Jasmine asked when I told her the news over lunch. I considered the question honestly. No, I finally said. Not anymore. Will you let him see the kids? If they want to meet him someday, yes. But on their terms, not his. Jasmine shook her head in amazement. I still can't believe everything that's happened. If someone had told you 4 years ago that your husband would empty your accounts while you were giving birth, that you'd inherit millions the next day, and that you'd end up best friends with his pregnant girlfriend. I laughed. I would have. Said they were pitching a bad soap opera. And yet here you are, she said, raising her glass in a toast. Thriving. Here I was indeed. A single mother, a philanthropist, a friend, a survivor. When Ethan had left that letter on our bed 4 years ago, he'd written that I was smart and would land on my feet. He had been right about that, at least. But what he couldn't have known, what I myself hadn't known, was just how high I would rise once freed from the constraints of his betrayal. The money had helped, certainly. My grandfather's fortune had removed financial stresses that might have broken another single mother. But the true transformation had come from within, from choices made in moments of crisis, from extending compassion when revenge would have been easier, from building something new instead of dwelling on what was lost. As I drove home that evening, I passed the pharmacy where my credit card had been declined 4 years ago. On impulse, I pulled into the parking lot and went inside. The same pharmacist was working, though she didn't recognize me now. My life's dramatic turn had changed me in ways both visible and invisible. I purchased a small package of bandages, something trivial, unnecessary, and handed over my credit card with a smile. Approved, she said cheerfully, handing me the receipt. Such a small thing, such an ordinary transaction. But as I walked back to my car, I felt the full circle of my journey. From abandoned and penniless to empowered and whole. That night I wrote in the journal I'd been keeping for Lily and Alexander, stories they would read someday when they were grown. I wrote about resilience and forgiveness, about how the worst moments can become turning points, about how families come in all forms. And I wrote about my grandfather, whose incredible gift wasn't just the money that had saved us, but the wisdom that had guided us forward. True wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in love, purpose, and the difference you make in others' lives. Words that had transformed from a platitude to a roadmap for rebuilding a life shattered by betrayal. Words that had turned a catastrophe into a beginning. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.